Here are some of my suggestions for this year to make this an even better year than perhaps you had decided to make it when the year first began. Here's the first one: review your performance. Even when you first get started and you're out there just starting to put it all together, you have to pause every once in a while and ask, how am I doing? And sometimes this kind of personal inspection of ourselves can be very valuable, because what you want to do is to overcome your mistakes as early as possible. In my first year learning to recruit, learning to sell, all those years ago, I remember some habits that I got into, especially that first year, that I had to, by the time that year was finished, take a look at and start to make changes. And if you can make those changes as early as possible, then those changes can give you more value to cash in on for the future. So that's a good one: review your performance. To sit down once in a while and take a look at your own performance, what you're doing, what you're saying, and how you're saying it. That's vitally important, especially if you'd like to be an effective leader for the future. Review your performance. Give yourself a grade at the end of the day, just personally between you and yourself. Would I give myself an A or an A+ for today's activity? Would I give myself a B? Okay. Would I give myself a C? Passable. Or did I sort of mess up some things today that I don't feel that good about? Not something you have to publicize. Not something that you have to perhaps let anyone else know about it, just so you know about it. Every once in a while, take the time to check your own performance and review how you're doing. Am I better this year than I was last year? Have I taken off some of the sharp edges that were there a couple of years ago? Is it getting a little better in my own presentation, my own performance? And not only my performance on the platform and on the stage, but most important is your performance in dealing with people one-on-one, dealing with people in a small group. Sometimes that performance, that situation is even more important, than doing the performance on the stage in Barcelona or Japan or Orlando. Because the few that you might have around that could become the big leaders in your organization for the future, the performance you have there, what you say there, how you say it there, can be just as important and perhaps even more important than your performance on the stage when there's 1,000 people to listen. But I think that's a good thing to consider as you move through the year. Take some time to review your performance. Also, in reviewing your performance, it's not a bad idea to have some people around you that you trust their counsel, and let them help to evaluate your performance. And here's why. Sometimes when we're so busy during the day and we're so busy and when we're doing the meeting, it's hard to sort of think about how we're doing. We just go do it. But someone who might observe some things that we don't think about might be able to give us some very wise advice. So those that are close around you, don't hesitate to ask them, how did I do? How was that presentation? How was that training class? How was my workshop? Was it okay? What kind of grade would you give me? Or on the scale of 1 to 10, how would you evaluate my performance? And if it's someone you trust that can give you good feedback on your performance, your language, your style, how you make the presentation, your attitude and how it comes across, your personality, maybe some things that they can see that you can't see. Because sometimes we get so involved we can't see it ourselves. But someone else on sort of the outside looking in can observe. Not to tear you down, but to give you some good feedback and some wise advice. This is a good one, reviewing your performance with yourself and with the help of others that are around you that can give you wise advice. A very famous man, Dr. Schuler, I was traveling with him one time in Singapore and Kuala Lumpur. And I remember after we finished those 2 occasions, we had about 3,000 in each seminar. This very famous man, who's been out there lecturing and teaching for the last 35, 40 years, and he's famous around the world, has a famous church in America. As we were talking after the session in Singapore, He said, you know, Mr. Rohn, I think my presentation in Kuala Lumpur on the scale of 1 to 10 was only about a 6. He said, I got to talking politics and I should have left those subjects alone, and that got me a little bit distracted. And if I was to evaluate my performance, my presentation in Kuala Lumpur, he said, I think it was probably about a 6. But he said, here in Singapore, the one we just completed, I felt good about. And if I was to evaluate my presentation here, I think on the scale of 1 to 10, it was about a 9. And I had to agree with him. Those numbers were probably pretty true. But here's what was interesting. This famous man, been famous for many years, lecturing around the world, was still judging his own performance, still taking a critical look at how he was doing, whether or not he was distracted, whether or not he was talking about subjects he should have left alone, especially in that particular country. And I thought, how amazing. No wonder he's famous. No wonder he's thought of well around the entire world, because he's still judging his performance. Here's another great bit of advice for this year. That is to refine your goals. Some good questions to ask. It doesn't hurt to go back and review that, and to solidify that, to anchor it, to lock it down. Then you must also, from there, start amplifying your own system of thinking about your goals and thinking about your future. Some things you thought of that you could do now that you've been in the business for a while. Maybe you've been here for 1 year, 2 years. Now you need to reevaluate your goals, because a year ago, here's all you could see. But you must not only think of the financial goals that are possible for you, but all of the rest. And here's what I call all of those refinement of your goals, and that's reasons to do well. If you have enough reasons, you can do anything. If you have enough reasons, you can go as far as you want to go, cash in on all that you want to cash in on, if you have enough reasons. Enough reasons to get up early. Enough reasons to stay up a little late. Enough reasons to buckle down and learn the disciplines. Enough reasons to put yourself through the paces. Enough reasons to develop the language. Enough reasons to pay the price. Enough reasons to put your faith to work. But you've got to constantly refine your goals. Some that you went for in the beginning, you've cast aside. I did that. Some things I went for all those years ago when I first started building my organization, some things I went for, I'm telling you, it cost me too much. If I'd have known what it was going to cost, I never would have paid. I've learned to adjust my goals. Something that was an obsession, found out, hey, that's not really what I want. First, there's too big a price to pay. Second, when you finally get it, it doesn't taste that good. So this is an ongoing process for you personally, for your business, and for your family. Keep refining your goals. Purpose is stronger than object. What you want is important, but what for is even more important. So decide what you want. Decide what you want it for. Keep working on that. And if you'll keep a clear vision, I'm telling you, to change your days, to change the momentum of your organization, to change your future. Refine your goals. Here's the next one that I would give you good advice for this year, and that is to exercise your willpower. No telling what you can do if you set your mind to do it. Two of the most powerful words in the language, I will. Benjamin Disraeli once said, nothing can resist a human will. And if you'll use those two words a little more often this year, I will learn the disciplines. I will get better every day. I will make sure my presentation is the best. I will make the best of my opportunity. I will maximize my time. I will try to correct my errors in judgment better this year than last year. I will do a superb job. If you'll use that willpower, I'm telling you, the I will power that you have is unmatched if you'll just use it. Sometimes we have a lot that we aren't using. It's like having a bank account and you never write a check. That would be a little strange. Or you have a $10 million bank account and you keep writing $1 checks. What I'm asking you to do, you've got to $10 million bank account of willpower. What I'm asking you to do this year, and that is to write some larger checks, take on some larger challenges, and say to yourself, hey, I've learned to solve problems in the past. I will solve the problems of the future. I will correct my mistakes. I will learn to meet people that I was afraid of before. I will learn to master getting up and talking in those public meetings. I will become a leader. I will make the necessary changes. I'm telling you, you can do that. Here's another one. Conserve your time. We've all been given the same amount of time. I remember when it finally occurred to me that rich people have about 24 hours a day and poor people have about 24 hours a day. What an incredible discovery. I said, wouldn't that make me curious? Here's the rich with the same time and the poor with the same time. I wonder what the difference is. And here's what life is all about: discovering the difference of how some people have learned to cash in on the time they've got, to cash in on the day and make it 5 times more valuable now than they used to be able to 5 years ago. To capitalize on the time that you have, to capitalize on the time, to capitalize on the freedom. If you have the time and you don't use it wisely, then you're probably destined to live less than a life in a lifetime. But if you learn to capitalize on your time, here's what's possible. You can live 5 lifetimes in one. You can live 10 lifetimes in one. Because life is not just the passing of time. Life is a collection of experiences, their intensity and their frequency, beyond just around where you are. To think beyond touching just a few people into touching many, many people. That now, if you'll conserve your time and use it wisely, and I'm telling you, business-wise, you can live several lifetimes in one. And experiences in touching people's lives, having them come back and thank you for it, there is no greater gift. It's one of the reasons why I still travel all around the world to all of these countries. Sure enough, someone says, Mr. Rohn, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I listened to your story, I listened to what you had to say, and it touched my life. Look what's happened to me. You can't buy that with money. So I'm asking you to wisely use your time, what time you've got. I don't know if you've got 10 years left or 20 years left or 30 years left. It did occur to me not long ago, I'm working on the last half of my life, probably. But whatever time you've got, whether it's a little time or a lot of time, here's the key. Cash in on it. Don't let it just slide by. Cash in and make this time valuable. Make this time useful. If you've got an hour, fill it up. If you have a day, fill it up. If you have a chance to talk to someone, fill up that conversation with all that you've got and all that you know and all that you feel. And if you'll start cashing in on the time that you've got, I'm telling you, life will give you the opportunity to live more than one lifetime in a lifetime. Here's another one. Admit your mistakes. Sometimes we have to admit our mistakes to others around us that we sort of let down because of those mistakes. We have to admit to others that we're counting on us, that, it didn't work out, and we made those mistakes. But here's the most important, and that is to learn to admit your mistakes to yourself. The most powerful counsel that you can possibly have is the counsel of your own conscience, the counsel of yourself. We appreciate the counsel of the leaders who are around us. We appreciate even the counsel of our family. We appreciate the counsel of our close friends. We appreciate the counsel of those we trust, whose information can be valuable to us. But here's the most important counsel to start trusting, and that is your own personal counsel. You've got some ways to figure out answers to problems that you probably haven't even tried. Admit your mistakes to yourself, and sometimes just sit down with your private self and have a conversation. Here's where I blew it. Here's where I could have done better and I didn't. Here's where I let it go when I should have put it together. And just admit that to yourself and look down inside your heart, inside your soul, and then seek your own counsel and make those necessary corrections and move on. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to have those kinds of days when it doesn't go well. We're all going to say things at times that's out of place, untimely. We should have restrained our language when we didn't. We lost our temper when we shouldn't have. All of that's going to happen to all of us. The key is to learn from it, from the counsel of others, mostly from the counsel of yourself. Now here's another one this year that can make this a fabulous year for you, and that is to face your fears. We've all got them. The fear that we might not do a good job. The fear that it might not turn out as we hope it would. The fears that are lurking there, some that have come and have been there even maybe since our childhood. Life is consisted of both fear and faith. Faith, of course, is the ability to overcome your fears. But what you have to do in terms of your fears, about perhaps your own inadequacy, not feeling strong enough at the moment, you just have to face those fears. And you just have to go to work on them. What could I do to eliminate this fear, or to at least overcome it? Or what I like to say, drive it into a small corner. Because there's always the conflict between faith and fear. But here's what faith can do. Drive your fears into a small corner. But if you start amplifying your fears, guess what your fears can do? Drive your faith into a small corner. There's always a contest between one and the other, between good and evil, between darkness and light, between sickness and health, between liberty and tyranny. The contest is always on. But what we have to learn to do is face that dark side, face that difficult side, and see if we can't manage it. Maybe not eliminate it altogether, but drive it into such a small corner that it does not affect the rest of your performance. So face your fears, whatever they are. You've got the strength to do it. You've got the help to do it. You've got the support to do it. This is the time to do it, this year, to make this your best year. Now here's another one, and that is to believe in yourself, to change your life in any direction, any dimension that you want to. Believe in yourself. You've got to believe in the future. You've got to believe in the country where you live. You've got to believe in the economic system. You've got to believe that there are leaders that can figure out politically that we're going to be okay. We're going to develop a better world in the next few years than we've had in the last few years. You've got to believe in your community. You've got to believe in your church or your synagogue. You've got to believe in the people around you, the future, the vision, the possibilities, the opportunity. But here's the most important, and that is to believe in yourself. That if you need answers, they're right there within your own consciousness. If you need support, you've got it. It's there. Believe in yourself. You have the capability and the power. Don't complain about what there isn't available. You can make up for that with your own faith and your own strength and your own power. Who was it that said, I complained about not having any shoes until I met someone who had no feet? You have got all that it takes. You have got within you the ability to see, believe, have faith. And your life will change, your days will change, your organization will change, it'll all change.